National parks are America's best idea until someone steps off the trail, and reality stops behaving. Today, 5 people walked into parks you've hiked, on trails you've posted selfies from, and simply ceased. No body, no backpack, not even a shoe print that makes sense. And the creepiest part? In several cases, searchers were right there within minutes. June 14, 1969, Father's Day weekend. For the Martin family, it was an annual camping trip in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. 6-year-old Dennis Martin, a bright-eyed boy from Knoxville, was thrilled. He was dressed in a bright red t-shirt, a detail that would become a haunting focal point of the unfolding mystery. They chose Spence Field, a picturesque grassy bald near the Appalachian Trail. Dennis, though sometimes shy, was in high spirits, playing with his brother and cousins. The air was filled with the sounds of a happy family enjoying a summer day, completely unaware that their lives were about to change forever. In the late afternoon, the children hatched a playful plan. They would split up, hide, and then jump out to surprise the adults. It was a simple game of hide and seek. Dennis's father, Bill, watched as the children gleefully scattered into the nearby rhododendron bushes, their laughter echoing across the clearing. Dennis went one way, his brother and cousins another. He ducked behind a bush just a few yards from his family. A few minutes passed. Then, the other 3 children leaped out shouting, "Boo!" The adults laughed, but their amusement quickly turned to confusion. Dennis wasn't with them. He never reappeared. Bill Martin called his son's name. The only reply was the wind. He ran to the bush where he'd last seen Dennis. Nothing. Within minutes, a quiet unease morphed into raw panic. The family began a frantic search, their desperate calls swallowed by the vast wilderness. Park rangers were alerted, and what followed was the largest search in the park's history. The effort was immense, involving hundreds of volunteers and even a special forces unit, the Green Berets. But the search was immediately hampered by torrential rain and thick fog, making the rugged terrain nearly impossible to navigate. Over 2 weeks, 1,400 searchers meticulously combed 56 square miles. Yet, they found nothing. Not a single footprint, not a scrap from his bright red shirt, not a single trace. It was as if the boy had simply vanished from the face of the earth. Theories swirled. An animal attack was ruled out. There would have been evidence. That he simply got lost seemed unlikely given the lack of clues. Then, a disturbing report emerged from another family who heard a sickening scream and saw a suspicious man in the woods. This led many to believe Dennis was abducted. Decades later, the case remains one of the most baffling unsolved mysteries in the national park system. Bill Martin spent the rest of his life searching for answers that never came. For the Martin family, every Father's Day is a painful reminder of a little boy lost, and a mystery that haunts the Smokies to this day. 16-year-old Trenny Lynn Gibson was a quiet, artistic student from Knoxville. Deeply passionate about sketching, she was excited for a class field trip to the Great Smoky Mountains. For the shy teenager, it was a perfect chance to immerse herself in the nature she loved to draw. On October 8, 1976, Trenny joined her classmates for the trip. The weather was a critical factor, cool, damp, and shrouded in a thick fog that severely limited visibility. The mist muted the vibrant autumn colors, creating an atmosphere that was both beautiful and disorienting. The group set out from Clingman's Dome, hiking toward Andrews Bald. Trenny, wearing a blue jacket and plaid blouse, walked with friends. The fog was so thick it muffled sound and reduced sightlines to mere feet, creating a sense of isolation even within the group. At some point, Trenny moved ahead of her group. A classmate saw her near a fork in the trail. One path led to their destination, the other into the wilderness. When her friends rounded a bend moments later, she was gone, having vanished without a sound into the fog. Teachers and students searched, their calls swallowed by the mist. As panic set in, park rangers were called, launching a massive search. As night fell, hundreds of volunteers joined, combing the woods with dogs and flashlights. But the cold, foggy conditions made the task nearly impossible. The search became one of the largest in the park's history. A comb believed to be hers was found. The most perplexing clue came from search dogs, who tracked her scent from the trail before it abruptly stopped at the edge of a road. This fueled the terrifying theory that she was abducted. Investigators explored 2 main theories. Did she take a wrong turn and succumb to the elements? Or did the scent trail point to an abduction? Despite reports of a suspicious man in the area, no solid leads ever materialized. Every possibility faded back into the mist. Trenny's family posted flyers and pleaded for answers, never giving up hope. Her father searched the Smokies for years. Decades later, her disappearance remains one of the park's most haunting cold cases. A sorrowful question mark over the beautiful but secretive mountains. Thelma Pauline Melton, known to everyone in Bryson City, North Carolina as Polly, was a cornerstone of her community. At 58, she was a woman of deep faith, a constant presence at her church, and a dedicated volunteer at the local soup kitchen. Her warmth was as much a part of the landscape as the mountains she loved to hike with her friends. Polly was a truly experienced hiker, treating the Great Smoky Mountains with a blend of reverence and familiarity. She often led her friends along the Deep Creek Trail, a popular and relatively gentle path she knew like the back of her hand. For Polly and her friends, a Saturday walk here was a cherished ritual, a reliable joy in their lives. On the clear, bright morning of September 25, 1981, Polly and two friends set out for another routine hike. The trail was busy with other nature lovers enjoying the perfect autumn weather. About a mile and a half in, Polly, a slightly faster walker, pulled ahead. She rounded a gentle, open curve in the path and, in an instant, vanished from view. When her friends reached the same bend no more than a minute later, the trail ahead was empty. They called her name, expecting her to pop out from behind a tree. But there was only silence. There were no signs of a struggle, no unusual tracks leading off the path, and no sound of a fall. In a wide-open, highly visible area, Polly Melton had simply ceased to be there. The National Park Service launched one of the most extensive searches in the park's history. For 11 days, hundreds of volunteers, rangers, and canine units scoured a 25-square-mile area. They rappelled into ravines and combed the dense forest grid by grid. Yet, they found nothing. Not a scrap of her brightly colored clothing, not her day pack, not even a single definitive footprint. In the absence of evidence, theories multiplied. Could she have been abducted on a busy trail? It seemed improbable, but investigators couldn't rule it out. Others speculated she suffered a sudden medical event like an aneurysm and stumbled into a concealed crevice, hidden from the exhaustive search. But for a woman so beloved and so connected to her community, the idea of a voluntary disappearance was dismissed by all who knew her. Polly's disappearance sent a chill through Bryson City, a community that had always felt safe in its mountain home. Friends and family held vigils, praying for a miracle that never came. Decades later, the case remains cold, a haunting piece of Smoky Mountain lore. What happened to Polly Melton on that sunny autumn day is a secret the forest has kept for over 40 years. Stacy Ann Aris was 14, a bright teenager from Saratoga, California. She loved horses, photography, and the outdoors. In July 1981, Stacy joined her father and a group of other travelers on a horseback trip to Yosemite National Park, heading for the Sunrise High Sierra Camp. The group arrived at camp after a long ride. Stacy, eager to take photos, told her father she wanted to walk a short distance to a nearby lake with her camera. She was last seen by an older group member, just a few hundred feet from camp, walking along the trail toward the water. Then, nothing. When Stacy didn't return, her father and others searched the area. Rangers and search teams soon joined, scouring the rugged terrain for days. The only trace ever found was the cap from her camera lens discovered near the lake. No footprints, no clothing, no other clues. Decades later, the disappearance of Stacy Aris remains one of Yosemite's most haunting mysteries. How could a teenager vanish so close to camp in broad daylight with no sign left behind? Morgan Heimer grew up in Wyoming, drawn to the outdoors from a young age. Friends describe him as adventurous, responsible, and deeply passionate about rivers. By 22, Morgan was working as a commercial river guide on the Colorado River, leading groups through the Grand Canyon's remote and rugged beauty. On June 2, 2015, near Pumpkin Springs, Morgan helped guests disembark for a break. He was last seen wearing a personal flotation device, bright shorts, and carrying a purple water bottle. In a matter of minutes, Morgan stepped away from the group and vanished. No one saw or heard anything unusual. The river was calm, the weather clear. An 8-day search followed, involving helicopters, boats, and dozens of searchers combing the river corridor and canyon walls. Not a single trace was found. For Morgan's family and fellow guides, the disappearance was devastating. The river community mourned, and questions lingered. How could someone vanish so completely in broad daylight with others nearby? Different ages, different parks, same pattern, brief separation, fast vanishing, no decisive evidence. With searches this large, you expect something. A sock, a camera, a piece of webbing. Instead, we get silence. Your turn. Which case is most likely explained by terrain and timing, and which one screams human interference? Pick 2 names and defend your choice in the comments. Hit like, subscribe to Missing Miles, and stay safe out there. Tell someone your route. Don't be the person who walks around the bend alone.